August the 30th, 2019. You're looking at the current tracking information of Hurricane Dorian. It became a Cat 2 overnight. By this afternoon at 2 p.m., they're expecting it to be a Cat 3 at 115 miles an hour. Then if you get into Sunday overnight, or overnight Saturday at 2 a.m. Sunday, we're going to have a Cat 4 of 130 mile per hour winds on our hands, and this is going to strengthen up to 140 mile per hour winds by Sunday at 2 a.m. and then, Monday at 2 a.m. Then Tuesday by 2 a.m. this thing's coming ashore as a Cat 4 hurricane. Shows it turning right up the peninsula at a Cat 1 around Wednesday night at 2 a.m. So a lot's going to happen, guys, from Monday 2 a.m. until Wednesday. A lot of the tracks are showing that it's trying to do that curve up the peninsula like we saw yesterday. The AVNO and the TABS and the TABM show it slightly going into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the Navy model is turning a little faster than it was, but here is our European model, and it rakes the entire East Coast. Notice that. The NavGem model, guys, slightly takes it into the Gulf of Mexico. Watch this. Just barely to on the edge of the panhandle in the Gulf of Mexico itself. And here's the Canadian model. Again, they're all kind of coming together right in this area. So my friends in the East Coast, the best thing that could happen for the East Coast as far north of Florida would be come ashore at Florida and then go up the East Coast as a Cat 1. But that doesn't help Florida with this imminent impact. But Dorian's again at 110 miles an hour, 972 millibars, moving west at 12 miles an hour. We got another disturbance. It's 30% chance of development at 5 days. It's a tropical wave moving westward from the coast of Africa. Some development of the system is possible early next week, so we'll have to keep an eye on that also. Now, Dorian, again, going to be a major hurricane this afternoon, Cat 3. You got tornado watches out through the Bahamas, guys. Every island, and you know that's going to move to the shore of Florida before very long. Again, you see that turn. That's still dependent on a front that's coming down out of the U.S. itself, bringing some stormy weather there. Here is our wide Atlantic view. You've got Dorian in the top left. You can barely make out a system trying to form off the African coast, but again, 30% chance of development. There's a front coming down, and we'll look at this closer. You notice it in the very top left corner. It's going to be a battle between that front and the arrival of Dorian on when the storm turns north. We'll take a closer look at the Caribbean satellite. But the storm is getting very large, and it's really tightening up right in the center, guys. You see that? You got some outgoing fronts that are being thrown off to the west and to the north. But that center is really tightening up. And again, it looks like south central Florida on the East Coast will take the brunt of this, depending on where it picks up that front that is going to steer it. Check this out, guys. It is out of, there's nothing now to block it. The Bahamas are too small to do much damage. But see right in the middle of the screen, the storm that's coming out of Oklahoma? That's going to be a lot of our steering factor. Now, depending on when it arrives and when it meets Dorian, will determine when this thing starts to turn. That's going to be important. Now, storms will move very quickly over the land. This thing, Dorian setting out in the Atlantic, we know the impact time, but we got a clash here. We've got the front right there, guys. We got this area. So where will they meet, and where will that will be the turning point when Dorian turns. Will it get into the Gulf of Mexico, or will it turn sooner? Again, somewhere between these two curve lines will be that determination. So we're going to have to watch it very closely. And when you're dealing, guys, with a Cat 4, possibly a Cat 5, there's no games left. The hazards affecting land. It says hurricane conditions are possible within the watch area by Sunday, with tropical storm conditions possible by Saturday night or Sunday morning. Storm surge. A life-threatening storm surge will raise water levels by as much as 10 to 15 feet above normal tide levels in the area's offshore winds in the northwestern Bahamas. Remember king tide. Near the coast, the surge will be accompanied by large and destructive waves and king tide. Dorian is expected to produce the following rainfalls by the middle of the week. The Bahamas could get 6 to 12. The sections of the southeast could get 6 to 12 inches. Isolated 15 inches. Central Bahamas 1 to 2 inches. Isolated 4 inches. It says swells are likely to affect both the Bahamas and the southeastern U.S., guys. The swells are likely to cause life-threatening conditions. Now, on the Safford-Simpson scale, let's look at the bottom two. Cat 4, that goes up to 156 miles an hour. 130 to 156. 157 is a Cat 5, the way that Michael was. When you're dealing with that, catastrophic damage will occur. Well-built frame homes can sustain severe damage with loss of most of the roof structure and or some exterior walls. Most trees will be snapped or uprooted and power poles down. Fallen trees and power poles will isolate residential areas. Power outages will last weeks to possibly months. Most of the area will be uninhabitable for weeks or months. The only difference in that and the Cat 5 is a high percentage of framed homes will be destroyed with total roof failure and will collapse. Fallen trees and power poles will isolate residential areas. Power outages will last for weeks to possibly months. Most of the area will be uninhabitable for weeks or months. Take your pick. It's nothing to play with. Again, the videos coming out of that area from Twitter and other locations are showing a run on the stores already. Guys, you don't want to be here. You do not want to be there. If you have any choice at all, don't. Move north, get out of there, move north and northwest, up into northern Alabama and into Mississippi and move over into that area. Of course, we got to watch it coming into the Gulf. But first things first, we got a major catastrophic damage approaching the east coast of the United States. My friends in Florida, keep your heads up. We're watching this. You watch it. Be safe.